The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you today by Draft. Looking for the best fantasy sports site on the planet? Sign up with Draft today. For a limited time only, our listeners will receive $3 matching their first deposit of at least $10. Use promo code DTR or visit draft.com/DTR to sign up now. Draft. Fantasy for the people. Now enjoy the show.
Caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. Robert Wood, touchdown. LA. Dog goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there. Cory Littleton, have yourself a day. Picked off. Marcus Peters coming off the edge, and Ryan will be wrapped up by Clay Matthews. Everett in stride. Wow!
Franklin Myers gets his hand down there.
Weddle got a hand on it. Did he pick it? He did!
Racing down the sideline is Akeem Talib. Gurley for MVP! Touchdown LA! Picked off by John Johnson. Well, it's Dante Fowler who is able to get to breathe. Greg Zuerlein sends the Rams to the Super Bowl! LA will play for the Lombardi!
Hey guys, welcome back to Downtown Rams. I am your host, Alexis Kraft, joined with my co-host, Jake Ellenbogen. And we're excited to talk to you guys today about our matchup this week against the Seattle Seahawks. It's sure to be a good one. But just to start off, I just wanted to reach out to everybody and thank you all for your kind messages. If on social media this week, I was kind of off the grid for a few days, and then I ended up announcing that my grandfather has passed away. And I was really close with him, so it's been a really, really difficult thing to go to, but just I feel very overwhelmed with love and support with all the messages, the tweets and the texts that I've gotten from you all. So I just wanted to make sure to start off this episode, I just expressed my sincere gratitude. And my grandpa wasn't a Rams fan, but he was very supportive of our podcast and he loved to listen and was very excited with all the things we're doing here. So with that being said, we'll start off the episode today I'm going to hand it over to you, Jake, because I kind of don't even know how to begin to break this down, because this is going to be a really big game for us with possible playoff implications, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know how I'm going to even come close to your opening intro, because that was very well said. And I like to thank everybody that listens to our show. I just wanted to obviously give Alexis as much time as she needed. I did not want to go on recording this podcast alone. And, anytime you lose a loved one, it hits hard. So I wasn't sure how long it would take for us to get back on here, but Alexis, you seem 100% ready. So, again, I'm really sorry about your loss, and I appreciate you putting like your heart and soul into this show. And again, I just can't. It was honestly a little overwhelming in a good way. When I put out that message that we're suspending things, not indefinitely. I didn't really like that term, because I think people would have thought that we were kind of quitting on them. But just temporarily, and just all the different, like the countless DMs and texts that I got, it means a lot, because, people are really liking our show, and, hearing stuff where I can't even start my morning without hearing Downtown Rams on a Tuesday morning. That stuff makes me smile. I'm sure it makes you smile as well, Alexis. And, with that being said, we got a game to talk about and get people ready for. And, albeit it is we're recording this on a Saturday. You'll probably hear this late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. But the Rams are playing the Seattle Seahawks, and this game is huge for playoff implications to, basically follow up what you were saying. When you look at the Rams, first and foremost, they are coming off an impressive win against the Arizona Cardinals, albeit Arizona has not been a great team this year. But they're a team that has really held their own against pretty much any team that they've faced, except for maybe the Saints and, of course, the Rams this past Sunday. So I thought that was a legitimate showing against a legitimate team, and they really put Kyler Murray in his place. So, you can't have the same game plan as you did last week, but I thought the game plan worked very well. and they could definitely, use aspects of it very similarly to, stopping Russell Wilson and company, and of course, attacking that Seattle defense. Coming into this game, I think it's very important to kind of go back to when the Rams played Seattle in Seattle, a game that I felt they actually outplayed Seattle the majority of the game. And, it came down to the fact I think Sean McVay got he got way too conservative with his play calling. And I think, unfortunately, that put the Rams in an awkward situation where they had to drive down the field in a game they probably should have been in prevent defense instead of trying to score on prevent defense. And, it came down to Greg Zuerlein, and, Zuerlein sent the Rams to the Super Bowl, but in this game, he, shanked the field goal off the post. So, this is huge because if the Rams had won that game, we're talking about an 8-win team, potentially going on 9 wins, and the whole season's a little different. However, they lost the game, so it makes it a little, interesting here. But, the Rams are going to have to win this football game. I think it's pretty, obvious at this point that just about every game is a must-win game. But, they have, many different ways that they can attack Seattle. So we'll get into that. I want to ask you, though, coming into this game, who are you most worried about excluding Russell Wilson on Seattle?
Excluding Russell Wilson, because the answer is Russell Wilson.
The answer is always Russell Wilson.
I think the Seahawks have a very underrated receiving core. I think that, Russell Wilson, rightfully so, kind of takes up the majority of the spotlight on that Seahawks team. But he is a very solid receiving core. Now, granted, there's guys like DK Metcalf, who's a rookie, who don't get, as much attention as per se, Tyler Lockett. But I do think that if you've watched the Seahawks this season, you see that they have a pretty solid receiving core. They will be without Will Dissly tomorrow, I believe. That I just saw that like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, he's been out for the year, so, unfortunately, back-to-back season-ending injuries.
Yeah, that's right. But they, there's guys in that who also are on that team. And I think Jacob Hollister, I think his first name is Jacob.
Yeah, Hollister's been really killing it. As somebody that, has been he's right up there with one of the most, I think he's up there with Tyler Higbee and another tight end. He's the most receptions without a drop.
Yeah, so I do think that something that most people aren't going to be looking out for but should look out for against the Seahawks is their receiving core, which, again, they're only made that much better because of Russell Wilson. Pairing up against the Seahawks, it kind of reminds me when we were getting ready to pair against Baltimore, how we were all like wondering how we were going to contain Lamar Jackson, and that was the only thing we could think of. That's kind of how it is for me going against the Seahawks and Russell Wilson. I think he's just been playing. He's having an incredible year. He's him and Lamar are leading for the, MVP hype. So I think that going into this game, you've got to be looking at Russell Wilson and his receivers. And they do have, and we can talk a little bit later, they do have a good defense in Seattle too. That shouldn't be overlooked. But the primary number one target is going to be containing Russell Wilson in that offense.
Oh yeah, of course. Somebody that just has unbelievable ball placement, somebody that has mobility, arm strength, accuracy, you name it, he has it. Yes, he's 100% going to be the guy that you need to shut down. And that kind of goes without saying, but they've recently received some interesting contributions out of guys like David Moore, Jerron Brown, and guys like Rashad Penny. And I think that's definitely interesting. It adds another dynamic that the Rams have to worry about because everyone's used to Chris Carson. He's one of the best running backs in football, but now that they're getting production out of the guy that I still don't know why they drafted in the first round, but they're getting production finally out of Rashad Penny. It's definitely making things interesting for that. But on top of the fact you mentioned him, Jacob Hollister, he's been huge. He's been the reliable target. He's the guy that, when the Seahawks needed to score, to win the game in overtime, they went right to Jacob Hollister, without question. So I think that's definitely, the interesting dynamic here is that, there are players over the year that have grown into bigger roles that you have to account for. It's not just, DK Metcalf. It's not just Tyler Lockett, who's been kind of neglected as far as targets are concerned over the last 2 weeks in big games. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot across the board that the Rams have to be prepared for, and if they're not, then Seattle can make them pay. But going to the defensive side of the ball, obviously Bobby Wagner out there. You have guys like Clowney. And I think really the interesting thing is Jaron Reed's back and he's wreaking havoc. But who would you say is the toughest player on the defensive side of the ball that the Rams have to face?
If we're talking in general, when I look at that Seahawks defense, I mean the obvious standout name, to me at least, when I look at that defense, is obviously Clowney, but they've got guys, when you just go down, like you mentioned Jaron Reed, they've got Poona Ford, Ziggy Ansah, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, Quandre Diggs, Trey Flowers. They've got guys on that team who are experienced and are consistent, because that's obviously important. But I would say their defensive front is a lot better than people give it credit for. So if I'm the Rams offense, I'm probably going to be most nervous about that defensive front that the Seahawks have. And also, again, because our offensive line, while we've played better the past 2 games, they're still relatively figuring things out and meshing together and that type of thing. So, I would say the defensive front, that linebacking core is good though too. So, I mean, I would say they have a very solid defense all around, which is not something, if you're a Rams fan, that you should be thrilled about. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a test, obviously, but, this kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier in the year. This offensive line already has the experience against, better defensive lines, mainly this, New Orleans Saints, Carolina Panthers, defensive lines like that. But this is right up there. I think Quentin Jefferson, somebody that really coming into the first game was one of their best players. He's kind of taken a reduced role because of Jaron Reed coming back, but make no mistake, I mean, they have a really good rotation over there, as well as guys like Michael Kendricks and, Bobby Wagner and, of course, KJ Wright. And then the secondary, you have to look out for guys like Shaq Griffin. You have to look at for, the draft pick, Marquise Blair. Trey Flowers is having a solid year, and Brad McDougald as always. So, they have a good defense. It's a good defense. It's going to potentially give Jared Goff issues if he plays any bit like he did before the Arizona Cardinal game. However, I tend to lean and subscribe to the idea that, the Arizona Cardinal game might have fixed the Rams offense. I'm not saying they'll go back to 2018, 2017 offense where they're, one of the best in the league and they can't be stopped. And really, guys, I don't think they need to. This offense just needs to be good. They don't need to be great. They don't need to be elite, because I think a good offense keeps the defense off the field, allows them to get the necessary, breather that they need. And I think with a fresh defense and a good offense, you're looking at, I mean, this is one of the best defenses in football. I'll say it over and over and over again. The Ravens game, shouldn't hold this, defense back. In my opinion, I think they're a top 5 defense. So I think, as long as they have, solid, to good offensive, production, I think this defense is going to be, refreshed, and I think they'll be able to do their thing against Seattle. I am looking for Jared Goff to have the bigger game out of the 2 quarterbacks. I think the Rams are willing to go back to Jared Goff. He showed himself last week, had a really good game. Should have won, the FedEx Air Player of the Week or whatever, and didn't, because his name is Jared Goff, and a lot of people have already written him off for the season since he hasn't had a great season. But let's give credit where credit's due. Like Alexis, I know you probably would agree with me. It has not been Goff's best year by any means. But when you're able to play like he did on the road, coming off a loss like the one that they had against the Ravens, there's definitely some room for optimism after such a performance like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. I think that I think that, this offense we've kind of talked about for most of the season, because other than the last 2 weeks, if we're talking about the most of the season, they were a little bit concerning, and especially Jared Goff, which we don't need to obviously get into that, but a lot of people are kind of wondering what the hell is going on with him. But I think that this game against the Seahawks is going to be an interesting insight into just how this Rams offense operates, because they've had really good weeks the past 2 weeks, and now going against Seattle, which is a good team. I mean, I would say that they're the most talented team we've played this season, except the Ravens. So it's going to be interesting, I think, for me to just see how they do against the Seahawks this week. I want to see if, teams, they get momentum, and I'm hoping that the Rams have momentum and that they go into this game and just light it up, because I think that they could do that. And I would hope that they don't fold to Seattle. So it's going to be an interesting matchup between the Rams offense and Seattle's defense.
Yeah,
sure.
it definitely will be. And I think it's a huge opportunity for Cooper Kupp, who's kind of, struggled to get to the point where he was earlier in the year. Even the game against, Cincinnati, having 250 yards at the half. Whether or not the Rams have just moved towards more of a balanced passing attack, whether Goff is, trying to balance out his, his targets or not, or if the defense is actually going out of their way to stop Cooper Kupp. I mean, it just hasn't happened. Like, Cooper Kupp hasn't been the huge, productive machine that he was earlier in the year. And I find that really interesting. But, in steps Robert Woods, who all of a sudden is, he's coming off a huge career day, 12 catches, 172 yards, 13 catches, 172 yards. I mean, he has just been, incredible as of late. And, it makes you wonder, now that Robert Woods is in his element, and, obviously you've seen what Cooper Kupp can do, is this finally the game that, Brandon Cooks is able to kind of, be up there with those guys? Because Brandon Cooks is having he's having easily his worst career season. But I don't fault him because of, he had the injury. He missed like a couple games. It's been just kind of a weird year where Jared Goff hasn't really distributed the ball with balance. This is easily a receiver group when Jared Goff is playing at his best. In a season, all three of them would go over 1,000 yards, or at least threaten it. But, right now it doesn't seem like Cooks can even get close to that. So I wonder if they really use Cooks in this game, try to, take the top off the defense, really test, somebody like Trey Flowers or Shaq Griffin over the top and test that secondary. Because to me, I think this is the perfect time to unleash Brandon Cooks. There's not a lot of film this year of the Rams really going all out for Brandon Cooks. He obviously had a good game when we saw him, against the Saints, but for the most part, I mean, he's been kind of, phased out of the offense. And even Josh Reynolds is having, more, looks than Cooks. But really the interesting thing I want to talk about as of last week, Tyler Higbee, because Higbee got paid and no one liked it. I was a little, I wasn't against it. I was actually more so for the idea of bringing him back, because I think, Rams fans look at Gerald Everett and they just assume, this is the guy. But, to this point, let me just say this. Gerald Everett injured his knee on a blocking attempt where, I mean, he got absolutely destroyed and showed really poor mechanics and just technique as a blocker. And I think just that play where he injured his knee against the Ravens just pretty much sums up what Gerald Everett is, not a blocker. So in order to be a starting tight end in this league and be counted for and be counted on, you have to be able to do everything. And I think that's what Tyler Higbee does well. His biggest issue to me has been fighting through contact and run after the catch, but he showed that ability against the Arizona Cardinals, going over 100 yards first time in his career and a touchdown. Alexis, do you think Tyler Higbee continues this play, or are you more so looking at the matchup last week and thinking, okay, Arizona allows a ton of yards to tight ends each week. It's always career day. So, maybe it was more so that and less about Tyler Higbee finally ascending.
No, I would venture to say that he is on the uprise. I think this has been honestly the best year I've seen out of him since we've seen him, since he was a rookie. But yeah, I understand what you're saying about when he got paid, because I know that a lot of people kind of weren't maybe the biggest fan of the move. I wasn't really sure, but I think after seeing him play this season, I think he's going to continue, the rest of the season to only get better. And I'm hoping that he continues this for years to come.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think that just adds another element to, the Rams. I think if he can continue this play, I think it makes Gerald Everett more dangerous, first and foremost. But, you're giving Jared Goff another, weapon that he can rely on. And we know Jared Goff is close to Tyler Higbee. So, all the trade rumors, I think, can kind of go out the window. I think he's definitely solidified himself as a member of this offense. And I do think his blocking needs to be, taking credit for, because, everyone waited until he had a really good game last week to finally give him credit for everything he's been doing. So, I don't think that's necessarily fair. And I am impressed with what he was able to do. I think it adds more to the offense. Real quick, I want to kind of delve away from this game for just a hot minute. Shaq Thompson got paid $13.5 million annually on I believe it was a 4-year extension for the Carolina Panthers right after they fired their head coach, which is interesting. The reason I bring it up is because Cory Littleton, who is just absolutely killing it this year, he's one of the 5 best linebackers in football. And the Rams kind of found him, through undrafted rookie free agency. So it's been really impressive. They're going to have to pay him, and that seems to be around where they would pay him. So right now, Alexis, just real quick, first off, what are your thoughts on Shaq Thompson's contract? And do you think that the Rams should 100% pay, Cory Littleton upwards $14 million per year?
I don't think Shaq Thompson's contract is surprising. I would say, it was deserved. And in regards, to how that affects a guy like Cory Littleton. Listen, I love Cory Littleton. I think he's awesome. I think he's been one of the best players on this Rams defense this season. And I've said before, I'm really bad with like the numbers game and all of that type of thing. So I couldn't tell you like a specific number to pay him. But I would say I'm in favor of paying him. However, when it comes down to guys we might need to break the bank on, he's not at the top of the list. Remember, we got guys like Jalen Ramsey, Dante Fowler. So, that's, I guess, kind of how I stand on that.
Yeah, and I understand that. I think it's really between whether you like Littleton or Fowler more, because I think Ramsey's a no-brainer that he's going to get paid, his contract. So, once Ramsey's paid, then, I think that the Rams will decide between Fowler and Littleton. And I do think they'll go with Littleton because look at all, and this is my argument here, look at all the linebackers they've drafted in the past that have amounted to nothing. And look at, Cory Littleton, who they didn't draft. So it kind of goes to show you, how hard it is to find production at that position, especially with, the amount of, scheme changes you have. You could be going through another scheme change if Wade Phillips leaves and somebody else takes over and runs a different defense. I feel like when you have a scheme versatile player like Cory Littleton, they're just hard to come by. Whereas edge, you're looking at, Obanai Okoronkwo and Natrez Patrick and, guys like that could contribute next year, in a larger role replacing Dante Fowler Jr., who I'd rather just keep. I hate, the cap in this league because it's like you're punished for having, these good players that you find. But yeah, I mean, I hear you there. It's really between those two, and Ramsey has to get paid. But just wanted to throw that in there because we are talking, a little bit about the Rams defense. And who do you think is going to stand out the most for the Rams defense against the Seattle Seahawks? Lately, Taylor Rapp, and he did go to school in that area of Seattle, or near Seattle, so they're familiar with him. But he just had a career day. Almost had 3 interceptions. One was called back, and then he brought one to the house. The way Taylor Rapp's playing, I mean, would you consider him, somebody that could go off in this game? Because, I mean, I'm looking at Aaron Donald. I think it's time. I think he needs to have a breakout performance on prime time, but that's just me.
No, I think Taylor Rapp would be my pick too. I mean, Aaron Donald's always like a good pick, but I would say what you said makes sense. I think that he's also going to probably want to, maybe he has some type of feeling towards the Seahawks being from Seattle. So I'm sure he's going to want to ball out in this game. So that's kind of what I think is going to happen as well.
Yeah. Well, we've come to that spot where we're going to talk about, predictions, anything before the score that you would have, any stat predictions?
I wouldn't say any stat predictions, but I will say I truly believe that this game is going to be a nail biter. I think it's going to be close. I think both teams are going to give it all they got. I'm going to say, though, that my instinct tells me I think the Rams are going to win 24-21.
I like it.
And it's going to be like a down to the last second something. I don't know I couldn't give you stats. I don't know what it's going to be, but I do think that it's going to be a really close game that the Rams pull out.
Yeah, I'm kind of going ballsy here. Jared Goff out duels Russell Wilson. We didn't really talk much about Todd Gurley. I do think he'll be used, but I think it's going to be more passing and tack oriented than you would expect. And I think the Rams are going to have a lot of success, and it's going to lead to kind of a weird score. I think I have them winning 30-17. I think I know it sounds crazy, but 100% I believe Seattle wins the division. But right now the way it stands, but I don't think Seattle's that good. And the Rams, I think that they've gone through their struggles and they're finding themselves. And as long as Jared Goff has, gained more confidence and he's kind of fixed himself, I think the Rams can really beat anyone. The way I see it is Seattle's a team that should have lost to the Rams, at home on primetime on a short week when Jared Goff was playing, measly football. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? That's kind of how I see it is. And the defense has since gotten better. They've added Ramsey to the mix and, now Taylor Rapp is more of a seasoned rookie instead of, kind of just, being, just getting in there. And Marquis Christian, it would be great to have, somebody like John Johnson in the back end, but the way the safeties are playing, you don't even need John Johnson right now. They've really found themselves and you've been getting some great play out of Troy Hill and, David Long and Nickel. And to me, I think this is a better defense than, the one that Seattle faced, weeks ago. And that's the one that they struggled against that defense. I mean, really when it was all said and done, I mean, you came away from that game thinking, wow, the Rams really blew that. And they outplayed Seattle on the road in a short week with Goff not playing all that well. So I think this game, Goff is going to play better. I think this defense is better and I think it's at home. And so, because of that, I lean towards the Rams and I have them winning by 13 because I don't see the defense giving up more than 17. I think this is a defense that could give up even less than that. Russell Wilson is definitely going to get in his touchdown, so he'll throw 2. But I do think the Rams really needed last week, and I think they get back on track, and they're right where they want to be right now. They want to be considered underdogs. They want people to, count them out. Hell, I counted them out at the beginning of last week and then really thought about them there's no way they lose to Arizona. So, I don't know. I'm kind of leaning in that direction. Could they make this a close game, Alexis? Absolutely. But right now I have it Rams 30, Seattle 17.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I'm excited to watch, and I do think that it's going to be a good game for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a must win. You can still get in the playoffs at 10-6, but it becomes a lot more difficult. And for Rams fans trying to figure out who they want to root for and root against, anybody saying you should 100% root for the Packers to win the division, I would kind of disagree with that because the Packers can still win the division with they can continue to lose these games. And I don't know. I just to me, I think you just want anybody that's in your way to lose games. I think you want, the Ravens to lose to David Blau and the Lions. Definitely the Packers to lose to the Redskins. If, that can happen, you want the 49ers to 100% lose to the Saints, which I think is realistic. The only thing that doesn't matter is the NFC East, because right now, the Redskins, the Eagles, and the Cowboys, I mean, they're all fighting for that last spot, that last division spot. And, to me, I don't think any of them would even be a threat to the wild card. In a way, it's almost like if you're a Rams fan, you kind of wanted Dallas to win against Chicago because Chicago is still in the mix. But at the same time, like Chicago's now technically 2 games down to the Rams if the Rams beat Seattle. So it becomes kind of interesting. Really, the Rams, all you really need is that you need the Vikings to lose some games. And I think they could definitely lose this week. I know they're at home, but they were less than stellar against Seattle. They kind of came into it at the end and made it close. But, I really like the way David Blau played, last week. And I think he's good enough to, maybe steal one on the road. The Lions still have a good defense. Matt Patricia, I still think, is a good coach. And this is a team that's going to fight to the end. They're out of the playoffs, but, they play hard until the final whistle. So I do think the Lions could upset them.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we can only hope. Maybe I need to go out and get a Lions shirt or something and bring bad luck. But I'm going to be hoping. But regardless, I just really hope that we see the Rams get this win tomorrow night.
Yeah, I completely agree. But that's going to do it. Hope you guys enjoyed. We're back. So, never fear, we're here. But it's been fun. So, glad we were able to kind of hop on before the week, ended. And, good luck to the Rams, of course. Good luck to the Lions. Good luck to the Redskins. Whoever the Rams need to lose, good luck to their opponent. As well as the Saints, as much as I hate to say that. But that's going to do it for Jake Ellenbogen. She's Alexis Kraft. This has been the Downtown Rams podcast. It's been the episode 264. And hope you guys enjoyed. We will be back soon. Enjoy the game.